Hi, Peace.
Hi, Cardeen. Good morning this morning.
Yes, so we're here for the third in a series of our four conversations, and today we want to talk about income protection, right?
Correct.
As we mentioned in one of our previous series, is that financial security actually kind of hinges on our ability to have consistent, predictable income. But a lot of things can happen in life to make that difficult or even impossible for a period of time. So let's dive in and look into what income protection could potentially do for us.
Awesome. That's a very wonderful topic, and so many people do not know about that.
Mhm.
So many things happen to people, and their income is either affected, but we need to look at having that income protection in order for us to be safeguard ourselves against the inevitable. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I need you guys to tune in, listen, learn something, and that you're going to be using, going forward. Thank you, Kadeen. And so I know in terms of that series, we have some questions that did come in. And so one of the questions was, why do so many people overlook income protection? And what makes it one of the most important type of insurance? See? So that means they've been having a hint on income protection, but they need to understand why people overlook it. So maybe you want to give us a tip as to that would help others.
Yeah, because you know what? Why do we want a paycheck in the first place? We use our incomes to pay for our shelter, buy our food. If our kids have activities, that's what we use to pay for it. We need money to sustain our everyday living. And if that is cut off, whether it be due to a serious illness or an injury, how would you survive? One question I ask individuals to think about: would you be able to stop working for, say, 9 months and still survive financially? If the answer is no, that means you need some form of income protection. And that the thing is, a significant portion of individuals will suffer a serious injury or have one of those critical illnesses, cancer, heart attack, stroke, and there are tons more that could happen that could cause you to be at work for months at a time or even years, right? And the thing is, I, for one, know that I need that kind of protection because without earning, I'm not able to pay my bills, right?
Yes.
And that's why you need income protection to make sure that a medical situation or an illness, an injury doesn't cause a financial crisis for you, your family, or your business.
Awesome. I know in terms of normal, financial analysts or, we kind of like advise that as you're working, you pay yourself, you keep some money for emergencies. You want to make sure that at every point in time, you have a 6 months buffer to help you. Now, and I like the example you gave. What if, you're out of a job for like 9 months for situations beyond your control? What now happens? You have to pay your rent, you have to feed, you have to buy groceries. There are essentials that you cannot do without, So that's a very important, point there that we actually did lift, that you
And
have
the
to look.
thing is, you made a good point, having the emergency fund, right?
Yep.
3 to 6 months. But guess what? A lot of people find it very hard to put away 3 to 6 months of income, right? And
True.
for pennies on the dollar, instead of you relying on yourself to handle that crisis, you could pass the risk on to somebody else and have a more significant payout than you could probably ever save to safeguard such an instance, right? And if you do have that savings, what would you rather spend your savings on, right? Something that you could probably enjoy, maybe your retirement. Pass that risk on to somebody else. That would be one good strategy to use should something pop up like that in your life, right? So you don't have to deplete your savings. Instead, pass the risk to somebody else and have them pay your bills for you, right?
That's a very good nugget, and I think that's like the last word for today. Pass the risk to someone else. Maybe when maybe I think when we read this, when you read this, when it kind of like resonates to say, okay, even if you might be paying $10, $20 right now. When anything happens, you know that you are safeguarded, you are protected. You have a shield, like a cocoon around you that can actually help.
Exactly.
So I love that. That's like the slogan for the day. Also, so One other question we did have was, what are the biggest threats to a person's ability to earn income? It could be so many of them. And how can disability and critical illness insurance help?
Okay, so we have a number of insurance options when it comes to income protection. And for
Mm,
the most basic ones are, of course, the critical illness coverage, which provides you a lump sum payout after surviving a diagnosis for more than 30 days, right? This
mm,
comes to you one big chunk of money, tax free. And what can you use this to do? This you can use this to access healthcare, pay bills, maybe get somebody in home to provide you with care. For some individuals, their homes need modification while they're recovering, right? Maybe they have this money to make modifications to their home, maybe a wheelchair ramp or
yeah,
something to ensure that they are able to live inside of their homes while they're recovering. All of this takes money. So that critical illness lump sum can help you with those big major spends that you might need to undertake to help you recover or cope with critical illness. A disability coverage, this provides you with monthly income replacement. So
uh,
basically, yeah, it's a percentage of your qualifying income that comes to you for a period of time that you choose. It could be 2 years, 5 years, up to the age of 70. You could start getting this payout on day one, or day 30, or day 112. So basically, you can customize your disability coverage. But who doesn't like the certainty of knowing for this period of time, I'm going to get this chunk of money in, so I know my bills will be covered, food will be in my refrigerator, and I won't run the risk of losing my home, my business, or something else, right?
yeah,
And from business owners, on top of this, right, it's not only our household that gets
mm,
impacted when we can't work, our
yes,
businesses too, especially if we're actively working in our business, we'll still
mm,
have that rent, that space that we rent for our business. We have to pay the rent. We're contractually obligated to do so. We might have business loans that we have to pay on equipment or whatever. We have services that our business is contracted to use, admin staff, right? All of these could be covered with a business overhead expense coverage insurance, right?
yes,
So again, we have the tools that we can use to safeguard our livelihoods, right? Income or a family that depends on it, right? We
mm.
should look into putting them to use. So we are, as you said, we have that safety net, right?
Awesome. Yeah, I was just about to ask that very question. Like, we have critical illness, we have disability. Like, what's the difference between both of them? But I think you just gave it. You gave the nail. You hit the hammer on the nail to nail it down there.
Mhm.
One of the question in terms of those income protection I was going to ask is, what factors could determine, the benefit you're going to be receiving? Is it
Well,
like, I know you
like more,
mentioned age or something. Okay.
sorry.
So I said, what factor could determine the benefit that you receive in terms of protection insurance?
Well, first of all, it's the contract that you choose to purchase, right? For critical illness coverage, you could choose to have 4 illnesses covered or 26 illnesses covered, right? So it would be
Mm,
dependent on your contract. For a disability policy, you might choose a 30-day elimination period or a 2-year benefit period. That would
mm,
determine the length of time that the benefit gets paid to you, the amount of benefit that gets paid to you. But other things come into play as well. Your
mm,
occupation will be considered, right? Your age, right? So a little more will be considered in because they do have to underwrite the risk as well, right? So it would be
yeah.
that would impact the cost to you as well as the amount of coverage that's available to you. If you want 24 hours of coverage, WSIB does provide some trades with
Oh, okay.
coverage on the job. But guess what? What happens if something happens to you off the job, right? You might want 24 hours coverage when it comes to different disability. So again, there are different features that can be added in to come up with a solution that meets your needs.
Awesome. So if we're looking at this income protection, how does it support enterprise? So let's look at the business owners, in
Mhm.
terms of, supporting enterprise or self-employed individuals, and how does it differ from, those that are working for someone as an employee?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Big corporates might offer certain benefits to their employees, right? Inside
Okay.
of their remuneration packages. As
Mm.
self-employed persons, as business owners, we have to create that for ourselves, right? Because again, we need that safety net, regardless of whether or not you're employed to a corporation or you're building your own business. You should have that safety net around you. So again, the critical illness, if something happens to you, you have that money to help you with your expenses. I've heard stories from self-employed persons, business owners who have benefited from this kind of coverage. And if you want, I can even share some stories, right? I spoke to a lawyer
Yeah.
once. She was in her 30s, right? She got diagnosed with breast cancer. That's a surprise. Nobody in her family
Oh,
had breast cancer before. Because she had a
yeah.
critical illness coverage package, right? She had the funds to continue to do take
Business.
care of her expenses. Plus,
Mm,
she could bring somebody into her business, right,
mm,
to help support that business. So after her recovery, she could hop right in. The fallout, if she didn't have that, could be that her clients would have gone somewhere else, and when she was back on her feet, there would be no business, right? Because
mm,
everybody would have gone elsewhere, or she would have been able to pay her bills personally and for the business. Another story, right? Because not everybody gets to go back to the work that they were doing before. A
mm,
chiropractor, right? He went to a game, went out to a game, healthy, fit, whatever. He got hit by a
mm,
car, right?
mm,
Luckily for he had travel insurance because he was out of the country at the time.
mm,
That medical bill outside of the country came to like $1.6 million, right? So luckily he had travel insurance. His recovery was lengthy. So luckily he had disability coverage. In his situation, he wasn't able to go back to his work, right? So
yeah.
these are situations that can pop up in life, right? We cannot predict when they'll happen. We cannot predict the extent of it, but we do need to be prepared. And imagine saving yourself $50 or
Mm,
whatever it would might cost you, $100, whatever it might cost, depending on your policy, right?
mm,
You could save that money, right? But in the end, would it be able to cover the bill that could possibly come in the case of an injury?
mm.
That doctor who got hit
Yeah.
by a car, his bill was
Yeah.
$1.6 million.
Wow. So I think that leads to what if, maybe do you have examples of people who actually face financial hardship because they didn't have income protection? What will you advise to such persons?
Well, you know what? We could just flip the script and say what could have happened for those two individuals that I just shared their stories, right? If that chiropractor didn't have travel insurance and disability insurance, he
Mm,
could probably, to pay those bills, he could probably would have needed to take out massive loans, sell his
mm,
house, liquidate assets in order to foot that bill if he didn't have insurance, right?
mm,
That lawyer could have lost her practice if she didn't have insurance, right?
mm,
So just think about the fallout. Would you continue to pay your bills? If you can't, will the bank come knocking, right? Will the creditors keep calling? Would you need to leave your home, put your kids with relatives? So we just need to think about it. What if,
what
right?
if?
Because the stories there are a number of them out there, right?
Mm,
But we need to look at our own circumstance and think, what if?
awesome. Also, I know before we're out of time, I wanted to ask what steps should someone take today to assess an income protection need and get covered? Because it's very important from all the stories we've had today. So, what steps
Yeah.
should someone take?
As always, talk to a professional, reach out to an insurance advisor, ask them questions, explore your options. I've mentioned three types of coverages. There are other things that you can do. You can have lifestyle enhancement protection, accidental death and dismemberment. There are certain products out there, and there is a solution for you, regardless of your budget. Just ask the questions, reach out to an advisor, and have a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. So, what's the one last thing you want us to take away from today's conversation?
You know what? Life, again, it's the same thing I say every time. Life is unpredictable. But guess what? You have a measure of control. Put the tools that you can so that your outcome is certain, right? So get covered. So if something happens, you know that you will have money, you'll be able to pay your bills, create certainty in the face of uncertainty.
Awesome. For me, I think what I have is pass the risk on to someone else. All right,
I
thank
know,
you.
right?
Having the session today, and thank you, Cardeen, for always being here to share with everyone. We want to make sure everyone is empowered in the little information we can create in terms of awareness, so that we do not fall prey to not knowing. Thank you very much for today's session. We hope to see you next week, same time Tuesday. Have a wonderful week and stay
I'm happy
blessed.
to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.